Yes. Okay. Good to go. All right. So this is who we are. We're leading the conversational AI community with education, benchmarking, and advisory services. And the way we are set up at CDI, it's kind of neat. So we have CDI Foundation, which is our nonprofit. And what we do in our nonprofit is we interact with the industry, with universities, with enterprises, with tech companies, and we figure out, what the best practices are for creating human-centered and inclusive goal-oriented chatbots and voice applications. So that's kind of where we learn, and we give out scholarships and people donate to the foundation. It's really neat. So that's kind of where CDI learns. And then we have Conversation Design Institute that's hosting this webinar. And that's where we teach our learnings. So you can sign up for classes and certification programs. And that's where you learn to create good chatbots. And then we have CDI Services, which is kind of the other side of it. It's like if you need some extra help, then we have a team of experts that help you with strategy and delivery and helping you create chatbots, not just for today, but for a long-term conversational AI strategy. So we learn, we teach, and we help you do it. That's the best way to think about it. We have a lot of new people here today as well. So for some of the people, it's like, hey, I've seen this, but it's good to sort of go over it. So we've been around for a couple of years. We have about 8,000 students around the world. And some of you are here. So good to see you, everybody. We have a lot of clients. But I think the most important thing about what CDI does and how we see the world is that we are technology agnostic, right? So what we try to do is get you to think about, what's the conversation that I want to have with my customers? And how do I design that in a proper way? And then we'll find you the tool and the technology of how to implement that rather than the other way around. So the way to think about it, everybody's selling hammers. And at CDI, we're focused on skilling up carpenters. That's the best way to think about what we do. And what are companies trying to do and why are they reaching out to us is, we have on one hand, we have automation goals as an organization. And we also have customer experience goals. And they seem kind of like opposites of each other, right? Because automation feels cold, at least to me. It feels kind of like a rigid, cold thing that we're doing. And customer experience feels nice and warm and pleasant. So it seems difficult to unify those goals. But conversational AI allows us to do that. Because people love talking to chatbots if they're done well, because conversational interface is very powerful because that's how people interact with each other. And because of that interface, it allows us to automate the processes behind the scenes. So if you do it well, you can meet both goals. And that's why everybody's excited about conversational AI. And the excitement in conversational AI, it kind of comes and goes. But now with large language models, take a shot, everybody. That's the first time now, or there's like this new moment where we're thinking like, we could actually pull this off possibly. So the problem we're trying to solve in conversational AI, or as we're designing for it, is that there are two very obvious things. And this is kind of the problem statement of conversational AI. On one hand, we have an artificial brain. That artificial brain is your chatbot, your robot, and that needs to understand the intent and needs to understand context and extract entities. And we have all this technology for that, NLU technology, now generative AI technology, large language model technology. So that we've solved that part of the problem. But now when we want to speak to people have a human brain and they need to, they have different needs and limitations and capabilities, and people need empathy. They need, helpfulness and guidance and sometimes, some encouragement. So when we talk to people, in order for their brain to function, we need to give them that. Because if we don't give them that, they drop out of our chatbots. So why do a lot of chatbots fail? Is because we're not giving people what they need. So it's important to understand what people say, but it's just as important for people to feel understood. And that's kind of, the problem statement of conversational AI. So when we look at organizations, what we see, if you kind of do the automation goals and the customer experience goals in that chart, you kind of see 4 squares here. And ultimately, what everybody wants is, you want to be in square number 1 with hyper automation and a great customer experience. That's kind of what tech companies are selling you. Then, you start out in number 2 in the discovery phase, where you have some automation. So you've got some use cases and you got a pretty okay customer experience goal. But from this bottom left quadrant, where are you going to go next, right? Some people might end up in number 4. That's why you focus on the customer experience, and maybe you got cool avatars and sonic branding, and it's really cool, but there's not really a business case. So you're not getting value. Or you might, and this is where a lot of companies go, you end up in what we call the squandering quadrant, where you're focused on scope and building and automation, but you need a lot of help in designing a good experience. Because if you just build stuff, but you don't think about the customer experience, then it's just sitting there because people aren't interacting with it, right? So you kind of want to go down this axis. And the way to think about it, the more conversations you have, the better they should be. So as I'm adding to scope, I should be adding to the customer experience by adding more design patterns. If we look at the industry, everybody starts out in this discovery phase, but then you see a lot of them be tempted to build more, and not really develop the skill set around design at the same pace. And why is that? Because you can scale technology very quickly. You don't need a more advanced skill set to deploy use case A versus B. It's just an extra API integration, for example. But if you want to have more complex conversations, all of a sudden you need to invest in a more advanced skill set. So technology scales way faster than your customer experience skill set. And that's why you end up in that squandering quadrant, which is not a good place to be, because it comes with, you're going over budget, everybody's upset, you're not hitting your numbers, you don't want to be there. But that's kind of the reason is technology scales faster than your skill set. When we think about how chatbots grow up and kind of what's happening, for most organizations, this is kind of what it looks like. So this is the movie Her. It's about a guy that interacts with a voice application. And when companies see this movie, they're like, yes, that's what we want. It knows everything. It can help with everything. It's spectacular. It's friendly. It's witty. It's contextual, all of that. But it takes some time to get there. So when you have a chatbot, when you start out, it's nothing but potential. But then, you have your FAQ chatbot. You may have a few transactional journeys with a few integrations. They integrate more, you may be on more channels, and then you want to become more proactive and contextual and become omni-channel. And eventually you'll be delightful on that first point of contact for anyone that reaches out to your brand. But you need to grow into that. You can't just have that overnight. The same way a baby cannot be a teenager overnight. There are certain phases of developments that you need to go through in order to really deliver on that. And what you see, because that is complex, we tend to just scale up on the technology and get in trouble that way, where you have, upset managers and over budget situations. So what we try to do is figure out, this is the work we do in our nonprofit, what the design patterns are per altitude of development. So, if I'm just starting out, I want to make sure to have the right values grounded in our operation. Well, we are inclusive and focused, human-centered, and have empathy and be goal-driven. But then as I'm, deploying these first chatbots, the design patterns that I need, so acknowledgement, confirmation, prompts, discourse markers, active language, simple language, these are sort of the fundamentals in conversation design. I need those. But then as conversations become more complex and more personalized and they become multi-turn, I need to start designing for trust. Right? Because how am I going to give you my credit card details if I don't trust you? Right? So as your chatbot gets more advanced, your customer experience needs to get better. And that comes with more design patterns. So what we try to do is give you a roadmap and say, okay, this is the kind of chatbot that you're building. This is where you sit in this chart. Then these are the design patterns that you should definitely be implementing it. And let's look at your skill set and see how we can get you there. So that's kind of how we try to think about this stuff. And, that seems to resonate with people. So when we think about scope, how do we increase scope? This is a taxonomy that I came up with. I thought it was pretty clever. You may disagree, but let's have a chat about that. But at the end of the day, when I have an AI assistant, I have it generally for 4 reasons. I want to reduce cost, I want to grow my reputation, so it's a branding thing, or I want to grow revenue, or I want to increase productivity, right? Those things are kind of important for me as a business. And then I have internal facing chatbots and I have external facing. Do I talk to my employees or to my patients, customers, citizens, community? And then I have existing conversations. So this might be customer support. These are conversations that I'm already having with people. I can automate those. But there are also lots of situations where there are possible conversations that I could be having with people that I'm currently not having, that I can add to my scope for the chatbot. And that, I've got my chat channels, I've got my voice channels, then I've got channels that I own, so my own chatbot on my website, and then the third-party channels, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, whatever it may be. On the voice side, smart speakers versus my own call center. So all of those things just contribute to scope. They contribute to our automation rate and our automation goals. So when you have a roadmap, everything fits in this taxonomy. If we want to think about customer experience, this is the workflow at CDI that we teach, and that works well for people. Today, we're just going to zoom in a little bit on the design part. What are the things, what are the design patterns? How do I implement that? How do I think about that? And also look at that from through the lens of large language models. Take a shot, everybody. So we kind of want to look at that as well. And the CDI workflow, you can sign up for stuff. We have free courses as well. So make sure you have that account and start watching some of this stuff. But the beginning is really, what are the conversations that we're going to be having? What do I need to power that conversation? So that's tech. Then who am I going to be having these conversations with? And who's best to have these conversations on my behalf? And that's my persona, my tone of voice that informs all of my design. And in a new course that we have on ChatGPT and conversation design, we'll also show you how you can use ChatGPT to actually go through those first strategy steps as well. It's kind of neat. But then in the design phase, what we like to do is mentalize the context of the conversation. So it's kind of, who am I having this conversation with, this particular use case? What do they care about? And I'll show you the canvas in a second. Then we want to verbalize that conversation. So we want to say stuff out loud, see if it sounds good or not, and then take that draft, test it, validate it, and then elevate the experience. And I'm going to show you in this segment kind of how we see ChatGPT play into that. And then, once you have your design, people like it, it's signed off on, you train the models, you connect it to the backend and your channels, and then you deploy and monitor. That's kind of the CDI workflow. And what's good about the workflow is that if you have your team using this, it becomes quite easy to scale your team. So let's say I have a team of 2-3 people creating a chatbot. I want to now scale this operation and bring in more folks. If you get CDI certified people, then they will follow this workflow automatically as well, right? Or if you hire someone internally, you just put them through the CDI program and they'll just be able to follow this thing. So a lot of enterprises, we notice you're just figuring it out. You don't really have a structured way of doing things. And if you just follow these steps, you're going to get human-centered and inclusive chatbots that are really going to deliver, and you can scale these teams way more easily. So that's kind of the reason that we got such a structured approach to it. So if we now look at LLMs and the expert, how does this relate to each other, right? The designers and this new technology. I couldn't take a shot, so I talked around that a little bit. But we think about it as time invested and value creation. So I think with a large language model, with little time invested, you can create something pretty good very quickly. But every time I use it, I'm surprised by what it comes up with. I'm amazed. But at the same time, I would have expected this to be included in what you're giving me here, but it's not there. So it's also missing out and stuff. So you need that expert in the room. And the thesis is kind of if you know what you're doing, you can do it faster. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can also make mistakes way faster. So if you have an operation that is not, that's kind of in the squandering side of the chart, you're going to end up there way faster and more rigidly. It's going to be harder to get out of it. But if you know what you're doing, you're just going to go to that top right corner very quickly with hyper automation and customer experience and a great customer experience. Because I think the problem for a lot of folks is that we still don't really know what a good chatbot is. And because we don't really know what a good chatbot is, we also don't recognize it when a large language model creates a bad chatbot. So I'll show you a few of these design patterns to make you aware of the stuff that actually improves the quality so that you can recognize it when it's not there or when it is there. That's kind of my goal for today. So the first thing we want to do is apply fundamentals, because we do that at every level, the fundamental design patterns. And first we need to know what kind of journey we're creating, right? So this is the canvas that we use. And it really helps you through this process. Let me take a little zip here. So when you think about a use case, you kind of want to think, when people are reaching out, where are they likely to be? Who are they with? Are they in a rush or not? Or what time of day is it? And what do they want to do? And what do they want to know? And what motivates them? And what are they worried about? And I think that the kind of thing is like, sometimes we'll have like, oh, the debit card's not working. Oh, they need a new PIN or they need a new card. Like that's kind of how we as an enterprise perceive that problem. But maybe it's my best friend's birthday tomorrow and I was going to get him a great gift and now I can't get that gift and I'm going to look like an idiot. So think, challenge yourself to think about these problems more deeply. And having a canvas like this allows you and the team to have a conversation about it. Now, what does this human really want? And what do they expect from this chatbot? And how do they feel about this stuff? And interesting as well, now they are interacting with chatbots a lot more in their private lives. So they might come in with completely different expectations when they talk to your chatbot. So then you have two options. Do I want to meet those expectations or do I want to manage them? But we can't ignore the expectations. So we fill in the canvas from the customer's perspective, but we also want to do it from the chatbot's perspective, because after all, they're both entities interacting here. So the chatbot has certain superpowers, things it can tell, stuff it knows already, questions we need to ask. And, as you sort of map this out, you'll see that conversations can be quite complex already, because we have one person that tends to reach out with, in a very high emotional state. And then you got the bureaucrat on the other end of the spectrum that just needs to ask certain things, right? And yeah, there's conflict, there's friction. And as designers, our challenge is to manage that friction, design for it so that it's not experienced by customers as much. So I'm at home, I want to buy sneakers. I want to buy cool sneakers. I want to know which ones to get. So I want to look cool. And my issue is always, I'm afraid that if I buy sneakers, I'm going to go home super happy with it. Next day, I'm going to go to the park and I feel like an idiot. I got the wrong ones, buyer's remorse. I have the wrong color or whatever. So I expect a chatbot to sort of help me get the right stuff and not, and give me confidence about it. So then from the systems perspective, certain things I can do, questions I need to ask, what's your running goal, etc. So this is what you do. And then, you have one person sort of playing the part of the customer and the other person playing the part of the chatbot, and you just let them have the conversation. What could this conversation look like? You kind of role play it. And preferably you do it sitting back to back from each other. So you only have your words, your voice to do it with. So then, you're designing with the bare minimum in mind. And as you do that, when you verbalize the experience, you'll hear what doesn't sound right. And it will just make your design so much better, so much faster. And yes, of course, sometimes you're not going to take the time to fill in this canvas. Sometimes you're not going to do a role-playing exercise. But promise me that at least what you'll do is when you think about your use case, like take 5 deep breaths. Take 5 deep breaths and think about the people you're creating this for. Who are they? Like your company might have 10 million customers. Just think about what you're creating and who you're creating it for. Take a few deep breaths. And then when you create something, say it out loud. How would you answer this? And you will hear it when it's wrong. And you'll try again. And it might feel a little silly, but this is a great habit to develop, to be able to do this. And it's going to increase your quality a lot. right? And I think a lot of times if you use ChatGPT or a LLM, and it will generate something, say it out loud. And a lot of times when you do that, you'll hear that it's not what you want to tell your customers if you really care about them. So let's do a few conversations on fundamentals. Every talk, this is included. You want to buy sneakers. Do you know which ones? So this is a design pattern. We call it conversational mantra because every message needs to contain this design pattern. If you go and look at your own chatbot at your enterprise or your hobby project, whatever it is you're building, and you do not see this pattern, you go fix it. I have great news for you. You can make it much better very quickly. So acknowledgement. What this is, hey, I hear you. Okay, sure, got it. Those are acknowledgements. It's kind of like, I hear you. You want to buy sneakers. What I'm doing here is I'm repeating back to the customer that I understand what it is they said. I hear you. I understand you. This gives the customer the confidence that what I'm going to say next is going to be relevant to them. Also, an implicit confirmation prevents a mismatch, because if turns out that I misunderstood the customer, then now the customer can actually correct me. So if I don't actually confirm what it is they said, I might be going down the wrong path. That is going to hurt your numbers. You want to avoid that. Acknowledgement, confirmation prompt. I hear you. I understand you. This is what we're going to do next. This is a design pattern that needs to be in every message that you send out to your customer, whether it's voice, whether it's chat, whether it's your own channel, whether it's third-party channels. Go and look at your work. If you do not find this pattern, great news. You can make it much better. So this is kind of the fundamental design pattern. Well, what if I now go to ChatGPT and I ask it to design a message like this? Hey there, you're looking for a new pair of sneakers? We have a great selection of shoes, blah, blah, blah. So the big problem with this is that, look, think about voice. It's particularly an issue in voice. So if I ask you a question and then I continue to talk myself, you're going to be answering that question. And then I'm going to be talking over you as a chatbot, and we're breaking the conversation immediately. You always want to have a clear prompt at the end of your message because it helps with turn taking. If I ask you a question and then I shut up, it's very clear that you need to answer that question. If I ask you a question and then I continue to talk, nobody knows what they need to do. And we have a problem. So why does ChatGPT and other LLMs, take a shot, do this? Well, it's probably overtrained on marketing copy. If you go over the internet, you'll find a lot of marketing copy. And in marketing, we like to use questions to keep the pace, create momentum, get things going. It speeds up the reading experience, right? So it's overtrained on these questions. So now all of a sudden I'm getting these questions in the middle of my message, hurting the result of my chatbot. So this is a big deal, everybody. So make sure that when you use a new technology like this, that you recognize the patterns and that you recognize the absence of good patterns, and then you can correct it. But if you're not really skilled in conversation design, you may think, oh, it's a great message. I don't see the problem with that. But this is an absolute no-go for people that are CDI certified. They would not let this ship. So that is an important one to think about. Now, let's say we have our main message, right? You want to buy sneakers. Do you know which ones? We're going to create a little momentum around. We're going to make that better because, if I tell you to buy this product, you're not just say, oh, sure, here's my credit card. We need to design for trust and for behavior. So we use the BJ Fogg behavioral model for that. And it pretty much means that you can prompt any desired behavior by having the right combination of motivation, ability, and prompt. The way to think about it, let me go to the next one. A phone call goes unanswered. What's the reason for that? Could be 3. Let's look at motivation, ability, and prompt. Maybe I'm in the kitchen doing kitchen work. My phone rings, but it's on silent, so I don't hear it. Then I don't have a prompt. Maybe my hands are messy because I'm doing some baking stuff. I got dough, so I hear the phone. I see it's someone I want to talk to, but my hands are dirty, so I cannot pick up. Now I don't have ability. Or Maybe my phone rings, I hear it, I can pick up, but I see that it's somebody I don't want to talk to, so I ignore it. Then I don't have motivation. So ability, motivation, prompt. Look at all types of behavior through those 3 frames. You'll be able to analyze everything. All right. So if you don't want to watch as much TV anymore, put the remote in the drawer. So you might see the TV that prompts you to watch it. You're interested in watching it, but now there's less ability because the remote, you need to get up and so you're making it harder for yourself. All right. Maybe you want to eat more fruit. Put the fruit at a spot where you always go, next to your coffee maker in the morning. You walk in, you see the apple, prompt, you can pick it up, ability, you want to eat more fruit, you're ready to go. So you can look at all the behavior of your customers and employees through this framework. And what we've done at CDI is we've developed all these different copywriting techniques that we've assigned through these 3 frames. So if I want to increase motivation, there are specific writing techniques that I can use. If I want to increase ability, specific things that I can do and for the prompts. If I want to increase ability, soft calls to action, choice architecture, anchoring, these are things that I can use, right? So let's see how we could apply that to our message of, make a good chatbot, and then see how ChatGPT does that. So I'm going to help you find the right sneakers. Does that sound good? This is called anticipatory enthusiasm. I'm putting the image of success in your mind because I'll say you're going to find the right sneakers. This is the reason airliners show you a picture of the destination, so you already picture yourself there. So this is a writing pattern that we can add. I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions. I skipped over that. Still need to change that. That's expectation management. I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions. 3 simple questions, and I'm going to be successful. I'm going to get the right sneakers. Then we have social proof. For most people, this only takes a minute, right? So I'm adding all these little design patterns in one message to increase its performance. 3 simple questions. For most people, this only takes a minute. And I can add some personality and run you through 3 simple questions. Ready, set, go. And then also what I'm doing is choice architecture. I didn't put that on there. So I have 2 buttons with 2 positive options. Go, maybe later. Both are positive options, greatly increasing the chances of someone selecting a positive option. So this is what conversation design is. And I think a lot of companies, they are not there yet. So they're just trying to get their chatbot to work. And now they're looking at this new technology that think like, oh, wait, now I'll just throw that in there. And I can now add all of these things to scope, right? And increase my automation goals. But they're not sure what to do for the customer experience goals. And this is the hard work that needs to be done for customer experience goals. And you can, design prompts in a way that you get better outputs from a large language model. But you need to be able to recognize these patterns, and you need to be able to recognize when you're violating these patterns, because these are the patterns that are going to make it successful. So if you just look at one message here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have about 8 different design patterns in one message, where most of your teams are probably just writing words and throwing it in there and then seeing if it works. So you have so much more to learn about what makes a good chatbot. And when you know what makes a good chatbot, that's when you start bringing in these technologies that might help you with the process and speeding up the development of creating good chatbots. So this is what ChatGPT, I asked it, add some behavior design patterns at Cialdini and lots of exclamation things, doing some promises. I guarantee from bank, you don't want to use any of that language. So it throws a lot of marketing copy on there again, which you don't want, particularly if you're a financial institution. You don't want any of that output, because then, you have compliancy issues and those sort of things. So you're bringing a lot of risk to the table. You might speed up your automation goal, but you're adding risk and compliance and bad customer experience. So be careful with that. And just to show you kind of what's possible and the level that we can take it to, this is what we call the escalation prevention model. Pretty much means that negative emotions can lead to undesired behavior. So people can be sad or afraid or angry, and fear leads to the wrong action or inaction. So these are people, particularly banks and financial institutions, they're dealing with people that are afraid to reach out to you because you make them feel dumb. They don't know anything about their finances. They don't understand things. So they end up doing the wrong thing. They end up doing nothing. People that are sad, disappointed in you, they end a relationship. They might go to a competitor. People that are angry with you, they complain, put a lot of pressure on that department, but also they might become revengeful by posting bad messages on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So negative emotions can lead to undesired behavior. And then at CDI, again, we have all of these writing techniques that allow us to prevent negative emotions to lead to undesired behavior. So when somebody's upset, you don't say, oh yeah, we shut your account down because you didn't pay on time. You depersonalize. You say, well, we always get the money at the end of the month. This time we didn't get it. So let's have a look and see what we can do about that. So you depersonalize the situation to get them out of that, angry emotional state. Because angry customers, you can't help in a chatbot because you kind of need them to be cooperative. So that's why empathy is so important at the beginning of a chatbot, because when people feel understood, they have confidence in that you're going to be helping them. But if they don't feel understood, if they feel violated, they will get upset and they will break your chatbot. So empathy is not a nice to have experience. It is crucial to the ROI of your chatbot. So this is kind of the level that we can take it to. But overall, LLMs, take a shot, can create value very quickly. But you need an expert in the room to see what's missing, what should be adding, and what quality is, because you're going to make it so much better. Don't think of it, I think people that don't really know what makes a good chatbot, they think that they can just swap everything out for an LLM. But actually, you need to know what makes a good chatbot first, and then use an LLM to increase your productivity. So a few things, and then we'll end because I'm way over time. They told me 30 minutes, but integral strategy framework. It helps us understand where you sit in that scope and customer experience diagram. So if you look at, this is kind of what we're trying to develop, creating a chatbot, making it smarter, making it more integrated. This is also how people develop, right? First, I can't do much. Then I learn to do a few things. Then I become more integrated as a human. I can make connections. I understand contact. I grow up into a smart human being at one point. I hope to get there one day. And the way we think about it is that, there are four things that drive your chatbot. There's mindset of how people actually perceive the work, the ability that people have to do their work. So that's the skill set that they have. And then the context in which people do that work, the culture. Is it an engineering focused culture? Is it a content focused culture? Is it a customer experience focused culture? Or is it a bureaucratic culture? And then, tools and structure, the systems that we have to deliver on that culture, with which people do the work, right? So skill set and systems are kind of a explicit manifestation of mindset and culture. Mindset is the individual, culture is the collective mindset in a way. And as you're building out your chatbot, you need to be working on all four as you go through these altitudes of developments. So let's think about it. When I first start out my project, I need a culture in which it's safe for me to fail. I just need some technology. I hack it together. I just want to make sure that it works. That's very different than having the culture that you need when you're doing 1 million conversations a day. All of a sudden, it's about risk. It's more conservative. It's an advanced skill set that you need to have to deliver on all those design patterns. You need more integrated systems, more advanced technology. You have a risk-averse culture, and people, the individuals, that have a certain pride and also risk-averse mindset in order to deliver on that. So you need to work on all four quadrants at the same time. It's very difficult to do. So what you see a lot of times is that we start out, we build our MVP, or maybe we're in production, we get some results, people are excited, and then what happens is we scale up the systems, we scale up the technology fast, right? Because we're getting some good results in the beginning, we scale up technology too fast, and then all of a sudden we're not scaling skill set fast enough. So our chatbot is veering off into the squandering quadrant rather than progressing to the top right corner, because the customer experience isn't developed fast enough. So what happens now is that I'm overrepresented in that system quadrant. The skill set's underdeveloped. we're not getting the results. So the culture starts to crumble. All these stakeholders that were very invested in this project, all of a sudden they're like, I don't know about this chatbot thing. Is this actually going to work? Are we going to pull it off? And they find a new project, a new technology. So the culture starts to crumble, and that crushes the individual's mindset. Because the people on your functional team, they're like, come on, man, give me the resources. I want to learn about this stuff. I can do better, but I don't have enough time. We don't have enough people. So people lose their motivation, right? So we start out in that discovery side of things. Then we get excited about it. We scale up technology. We end up in the squandering thing. And then it's really hard to get back on track. So we want to be working on all 4 quadrants at the same time. And as we're doing this, you probably have an idea kind of where you sit in this quadrant. Like for everyone that's watching this and you're part of a team, you probably know where you are. And if you want to know better, you reach out to us, because we have ways of auditing very lightly and more advanced ways of sort of figuring out, where are you in scope? What should you be doing in terms of customer experience? And then, how do we close that gap? How do we get you there very quickly? That's often through training or consulting, doing it together, or us empowering you to do it. Sometimes we just do it for you altogether. But think of it in a more integral way. That's why we call it the integral strategy framework. It's not just a chatbot. This chatbot is part of a wider ecosystem and a wider culture within your organization. Yeah, so new course that we launched, it's doing very well. How do I use ChatGPT in conversation design to be more productive, use it to write first drafts, figure out my persona, finding use cases. There's lots of ways that I can use it for. You can just sign up for it. And this is the first module. We'll be adding more modules. I just created a new module with Cobus from Human First about large language models that will be added to this. So as CDI is discovering this world of LLMs, take a shot, we'll be creating more content that you just have access to. So you're kind of going on the journey with us into this new paradigm shift. Because even if you have like a very old school chatbot that is just running, on QA, some pattern matching, or just NLU, all of these things apply. You can just do a better job by the way of thinking about this differently with ChatGPT. So quick checklist at the end, and then if you have some questions, I see a few questions already, then we can go to that. So before you do anything, take a deep breath. Think about, who is this for? These customers, these patients, these citizens, or these employees in my organization. Who are they? Humanize them. We always use the word users. I don't like the word. Only drug dealers have users. Think of them as people, and take 5 breaths, all it takes. Have the conversation. Whatever you create, say it out loud. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not very good. Active language over passive language, simple language over complex language, clarity over detail. But when you're clear and you keep it simple, anticipate the need for elaboration. So we introduce a new word, maybe expect people to say, but what does that mean? And then you clarify rather than throwing it all in there at the same time. Conversational mantra, acknowledgement, confirmation, prompt, use discourse markers. First of all. Secondly, those are words that tie stuff together, that helps people navigate the information that they're perceiving. It also makes it easier for them to just get the information in at all. So if you have a list of 4 things, don't just say ding, 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 because in voice, people won't remember the first by the time you say the 4th. So simplify that by using discourse markers. Pass the 1 breath test. If you cannot say something within 1 breath, it is too long. You can take out words. Use the Jenga technique. Jenga, you have a tower, you take out the blocks. If you take out 1 too many blocks, the tower collapses. In writing, you can take out about 50% of the words. Take out words one by one. If the tower of meaning collapses, put them back in. If it sounds written, rewrite it. It's that simple. And I think, a very important one, especially in the enterprise environment, Is the desired behavior clear? I now created something. I went through this whole process. Is it clear what the customer, the patient, the employee, or the citizen needs to do? A lot of times it's not. So ask yourself at the end of it, is it clear what the other person should do? We made it to the end. Only went over time, but 10 minutes. That's pretty good. You can I'm online, shoot me an email, sign up for stuff, follow this link. You can create an account. Good chance you already have it because you're here. And we're still at 139 people. That is amazing. We did great. I don't know how much we started with. Did we lose people? And if we did, who were they? Let's hunt them down. No. Let's see. Few things. We're going to do Q&A. So drop it in the chat or in the official Q&A. I have both open, and we can talk about both. So do we support Arabic? The CDI courses. So we don't have a course specifically on Arabic. No. We will be, as we're kind of creating new stuff now, make it easier to translate that to multiple languages. I don't know if Arabic is very high on the list and what the grammar looks like there. So I can tell you that many of the principles will be the same, like how to end a question, how to use an acknowledgement, a confirmation, a prompt. The patterns will be the same pretty much in every language, but the application within that language might be very different. So I would recommend checking out just signing up for the free courses, go over it and see to what extent you feel that applies to Arabic. Because I would also like to know, because then that helps us with the translation efforts that we're going to put in there. So it'd be great if you could do that. Thanks for organizing this. I might leave soon. Can I get access to the recording? That's already answered. But yes, the recordings will be here. People can watch it, rewatch it, do it on the big screen, get a bucket of popcorn. Then we have here an anonymous attendee. That's exciting. Who would it be? Who would this anonymous attendee be? Maybe it's someone famous. I'm a marketing content writer on a small team. Yeah, that's what they all say. Who does product and UX writing. Our chatbot is a mess, and I'd love to see us fix it within the next year. How do I advocate for it being something we focus on as well as advocate for my first involvement in the project? Okay, so this is an interesting question. A lot of times, you're working in a context where it's clear that something's not working, but people don't know that they don't know, right? People that, everybody can type, therefore we all think we can write, and we don't recognize a poorly written designed chatbot. So how do I make sure? I think a great way maybe to get this started. So you want to be part of the project and you want to show them that it could be done better. A quick way of doing it is maybe actually using the checklist that I send at the end. And we're going to actually design that better and use it as a give it out more as a tool for people for this specific reason. Because then you could just say CDI Foundation, the organization that, is involved with quality of chatbot, they have this checklist of these design patterns and these things. If I look at our chatbot, I see that a lot of them are not in there. And this is not just Hans van Dam talking, this is the entire industry as a whole that has agreed on these design patterns for quality. So I think using that as a tool helps you ask the right questions. And then, then it's about, having the background in UX writing, making you a very good person to get involved with this. I think, that's a case for you to make, but I wouldn't be too hard. And I think getting started, maybe even with some of the courses that we have, already puts you in the right direction. If you say, I'm already studying with them, because we got, the modules that are just open to everybody. That might be a good way for it. Then we have, if I'm just starting out in this AI world, building my knowledge, where do you recommend me start? What are the need to haves and the nice to haves? That's a very interesting question. So what is really like the high impact stuff that gets me going? Well, of course, this webinar, of course, the CDI courses. If you're just starting out your career in conversational AI and you get a CDI certificate and you post on LinkedIn, I have a CDI certificate, the next day you will have recruiters calling you. That's a promise. All right. It's not a promise, but it's like, that's what we get back from, that's what we hear from people. Now, so there's high demand for people working here, and having the credentials really helps. So the question is, do you want to be, because there's another route here, you would be focusing on the experience side of conversational AI, but there's also a lot of people that focus on the technology side of things, right? So you could also say, I'm going to study all the different types of technologies and how they operate and how they relate to each other. And we'll also create content on that as well. What's AI, what's machine learning, what's deep learning, what's a foundation model, what's an application, like understanding that whole landscape of how things work. But I guess you have two routes. You either focus on the scope side or on the customer experience side. So I would say, watch this stuff. Maybe start a blog, start writing about this, create your own project, just use VoiceFlow, create an account there, build your own chatbot, play around with it, build some experience, get your credentials. And then we really see people in this industry that come from customer support, get involved with a chatbot, find us, get skilled up, and then 1 or 2 years later, all of a sudden they're doing AI at a large enterprise, just because it's in such high demand. And conversation design just kind of seems when a lot of people find this, it's like, it's their eye opener. They're like, oh God, yes, this is why we're not hitting the numbers. We're building all this stuff, but it's not working. And then all of a sudden, like, it clicks. And then you're kind of the savior entering that department. Let's see. Another anonymous attendee. That's so cool. I'm really excited about that. What advice would you give to a CD trying to advocate for the Spanish experience in the IVR within the fintech? We primarily design for North American demographic, but our Spanish speakers are a growing demographic as well. That's very important. So there are two sides, right? So I'm in North America, English, but there's a big Hispanic community. So Spanish is a big language as well. It has to do with inclusivity in a way, right? And there's a lot of writing done now, publications that talk about the business value of inclusivity, and particularly when it comes to the languages. So I guess for your customers in fintech, I don't know if the Spanish is like if it's nice to be more positively inclusive and to offer that, or if you would actually be losing out on customers right now simply because they only speak Spanish. I think that I don't know in this situation, but I think there's the two distinctions there. So yeah, people, particularly in language, if you can talk to them in a proper way that really makes them feel understood, but makes them feel validated as a human, then you're building a relationship for life. Whereas if you gotta, not only speak English, but also speak very proper English, because otherwise the system doesn't understand you, it's almost like a slap in the face. There's a use case of an immigration chatbot, immigration service somewhere in a European country, Germany. I got to say it, otherwise it can't do the example. So refugees would reach out and they would want to talk to it, but it only spoke German and only spoke proper German. So, if you look at social linguistics, the language that we speak is so important for us as human beings. If I take the effort to reach out, I find this thing and I have an issue and it's very delicate and it's complex and it has a big impact on my life and I want to talk to it, but my German is not perfect. And therefore it says, I do not understand you. To a human, that feels like I do not exist. And that's a slap in the face. That hurts your brand. It hurts your business if you're an enterprise, right? So here too, I don't know exact specific thing here, but I think this is kind of the language and the case you want to make as to whether or not offer Spanish in an IVR. There's the same thing with older adults. Older adults is a growing market. A larger portion of your demographic is older adult. They might speak a little different. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes there are certain references that you're using that are not a good fit for them. Make sure to have an inclusivity program for that as well. Let's see, we have that one. If the LLMs, everybody take a shot, are overtrained on marketing material, and they totally are, how do we use LLMs in a more desirable way? Not a star, not anonymous. God, Arthur. King Arthur, maybe. Um, okay, yeah. So LLMs are overtrained on marketing copy. So can we get less marketing-y copy out of it? So in a lot of times, you can, of course, with all the examples that I showed, you can make a prompt that is very detailed, where you're saying, end with a question, no more than this many characters, use active language, be focused on clarity, don't have any question marks at the middle of the. You can get a very detailed prompt, but what you're doing then is actually trying to completely control the output of that black box. It's starting to defeat the purpose. Because if I have a million people reaching out with the same use case, how do I open an account, or I lock myself out, or whatever? Why would I then design a prompt that's so detailed that I control the output of the black box on the same use case? Then I might as well just write it and do it in a way that I fully control it and that is actually delivering on what I need to do. So those are then the considerations that you want to give. Leon Raymond, how can we avoid the use of injection when constructing a first chatbot? Is there a prompt or an approach that you recommend? Leon, do you mean injection in terms of people through LLM saying something that prompts something from the LLM, or injection in the backend system? Injection in my world is used in different ways. So maybe you can clarify and I will get back to it. Another anonymous attendee, do we need to have programming language knowledge to become a conversation designer? No, please don't. Please don't. No, of course it helps a little bit. What you'll find is that a conversation designer interacts with developers, right? Because when you need an integration or you need something to work and needs to be deployed to a channel, you'll be interacting with programmers. But a lot of times what's happening in companies is that the programmers are too involved with the design, and therefore you get these very robotic chatbots because they're written in code, ones and zeros. So of course it helps to understand the world of the engineer. Like, there are different programming languages and there's specific things that they do and they have to connect. So understand their world, have empathy for their world. They'll bring up, they'll challenge you, but you might as well challenge them, because when there's a problem, for them, everything is an engineering problem. For you, everything is a design problem. And sometimes the engineer actually has the better solution. Sometimes you have the better solution. So have empathy for each other's world. Understand that you're probably equally right. But don't try, you don't have to be a developer for this. Sometimes if you're a very small startup, you might have to do both. But so, if you look at sort of the integral strategy framework, at the beginning, you'll have people doing multiple things. But if you grow into a team of 40, 50 people, and one person is doing cognition, the other person's doing design, the other person is doing validate, is only doing the tests of the design and quality assurance, the other person is doing integrations. So as the team grows, you don't have to know these things. But if you're working in a small team, it helps to understand better what the other people are doing. Similar to Anonymous, I am a freelance conversation designer working with financial institutions. The company I'm currently working for is obsessed with integration LLMs into customer-facing services and don't really value the need. Do you have suggestions of how to advocate for these principles in a world of enterprise who are starstruck by LLMs? L. Jeffries, can you please shoot me a little email? I'd love to explore this. And actually, we're building a product for this as well, that what it does when an LLM creates a message, it gets tested by design patterns and compliance rules to mitigate the risk. And it needs to pass a certain threshold before it can go out. So what you would be doing is applying these design patterns in that LLM-generated world. But yeah, I think a talk like this, and also I can share some of the slides, is going to help you steer the conversation in the right direction. But yeah, don't just blindly throw in an LLM without understanding the things we talked about today. Shoot me an email and we can have a talk about that. Can we do a short review session of publicly exposed? Oh, that is good. Yeah, maybe everybody. Can we do a webinar where we just go over chatbots? People tell me I should do that on YouTube. Okay, so we're here with 108 people still. Everybody shoot me an email with one chatbot, just a link to the chatbot that you feel you'd like to get reviewed. My inbox will blow up, but that is okay. And then we can do that. It'd be fun. We'll do a webinar and we just look at these chatbots and we go over that. The conversation that tries to break. Yeah. So what can you do with, back to the question of Leon, the ingestion? What can people do if they know how there's an LLM behind the scenes? They can say things that are going to trigger certain things that you don't want them to do. So the product that I talked about earlier that tests the output of the LLM against design patterns, same way this product tests the input of the customer if that doesn't do anything you don't want it to do. So it is a security layer and risk mitigation for your chatbot. So that's kind of the way to do it. But yeah, these are serious problems. You don't want people to just throw something at your AI model, and you want to have control over the output of an AI model. That is more a thing back on that. Let's see. Do we... Oh, wait, I missed a whole lot here. Wait. Let me need to voice flow. This is awesome learning. Wait. Okay. Germans and technology is the whole thing. All right, that's good. That's back to the immigration chatbot. In which use cases can LLM help in specific industries? Well, so if you're in banking and you want to use large language models, a great way to do it is to, instead of having it run real time, why don't you use ChatGPT on the side and just say, write me a first draft? Or when somebody has this problem, what other problems might they have? Or when somebody that loses their passport, how might they feel? It can actually give you suggestions on people's mindset. I really like that. Or what are some good use cases in banking? What are different ways that people might ask for this? So then you can create training phrases. There's a whole caveat around that as well. We addressed that in the ChatGPT course. Because you can't just blindly take training phrases from ChatGPT because ChatGPT doesn't know what the rest of your corpus looks like. But so in all the steps of creating a chatbot, ChatGPT can support you and it can increase your productivity. It can give you ideas. It makes you more creative. So in banking, I would do that. Another thing in banking of just using large language models in general, creating summaries after conversations, whether they're done by chatbots or live in the call center, doing sentiment analysis, analyzing it and find different patterns and use cases. There's a lot of stuff that you can use LLMs for. Or, in call center, when somebody talks, you find it in a knowledge base, explain this to a 5-year-old, and you get it in very simple language, and then the agent can say that. So those are different things. Are there any companies out there that you think are achieving some great results in the conversation design space? Well, we're going to find out when we do all the reviews. What I always say, and this is not a satisfying answer, but the companies that are doing a great job in conversation design have very boring chatbots because you hardly even notice they're there. Because you reach out, you need to get a thing done, and it's done, and you didn't even realize that you were talking to a chatbot because it was just a pleasant experience. So it's just funny. I was talking to one recently, and I was like, "This is really good. I should remember that." And then, yeah, then we played the LLM shot game, so I forgot. But yeah, there's a few out there, but I think overall the ones that are doing a good job are the ones that are taking a very boring approach and focusing on the high impact use cases and just doing that well. How's the conversation design job market for people planning switching careers to this field? It's good. It's good. Like there's a lot of hype in the market now, right? Now it's a little bit of a freeze when LLMs came out or became popular, where everybody's like, oh, do we need designers? How does this work? What is that? Now everybody's like, oh, wait, this is going to be we need people that understand this. So yeah, the job market for conversation designers is very good. Every enterprise will ask about your experience or opinions on LLMs. And I think what we're trying to do at CDI, not to pitch us, but for us, we've been figuring out too, like, what does this mean? And overall, what you'll see is like you've got humans and you got the AI, and humans used to create stuff, right? And the AI was supporting them. And what you'll see now is humans are going to create less, and AI is going to create more, and the humans are going to be supporting the AI. And for some organization, that transition from human creator to AI creator, that might take 5 years. and others starting out today, they might just start with that. But understanding how the human and the AI relate to each other. And I think particularly in the enterprise world, like a lot of our clients are enterprises, what they like about us, and I think that's what we're trying to do now with the new educational program on generative AI, is that you don't come to CDI for the latest. Like, we're not going to be telling you like, oh, this technology can now do this because they did a press release yesterday. We're a little bit more conservative. We take the enterprise perspective of like, how do I, in a responsible, mature way, build up a conversational AI capability? And then once I have that foundation, how do I then bring in these technologies? But we're not going to sort of rushing to market to do all these promises on this technology, because enterprise environments are more complex, right? It takes a while from research to become a technology, to become a product, to become implemented as a product, to be successful at scale in an enterprise. And when there's a new hype in the market, we tend to skip steps. And a lot of people be like, oh yeah, just deploy it and it will work. But it takes way longer because enterprises are complex organizations. So I think if you are a conversation designer that can tell that story, you're going to do very well in this job market, because a lot of these people that are hiring, they've seen trends come and go. And we all know that this is going to be significant, that this is going to impact the world and our enterprise environment. But we also know that it's not changing overnight. So if you take that responsible, mature approach to the job market, I think you're going to do very well. Thank you. Done. Brilliant. Great. I think we did all the questions. We went through them. I think are there people working on chatbot education? In other words, are there conversations okay, so this is actually great. I'll answer this, and then we got to wrap it up, because we all have lives to get back to, or some of us. I don't. But there's a guy who's out in Boulder, Colorado, who does education chatbots. And as a whole field, shoot me an email. I can connect you, because he's also very eager to be connected. So how are we using chatbots in education? One example that he's working on, I really like it, is an AI as a facilitator. So kids might want to talk about certain things and form their opinions, et cetera, et cetera. They talk to a chatbot first to sort of develop their story, and then the chatbot becomes a facilitator between them and the other students, and then they learn and grow from each other. I think it's really cool. So Mattia Big Ali, also shoot me an email, and I will connect you to that guy who's doing really cool stuff, and he's now working with Stanford University as well on this. Thank you so much, everybody. This was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed this, and thank you all for being here. And I know we're all busy and we have stuff to do, and you spent an entire hour with us, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's keep up our learning journey together. Let's do awesome stuff together. And again, like some of the things that we talked about, if you don't have a student account yet with CDI, just sign up, because there's a lot of content there. And also the canvases, you can just download and use them in your work tomorrow. And really, if you look at your own chatbot tomorrow, and you don't see acknowledgement, confirmation, prompt, that's good news. You don't even have to call us. That's something you can fix. So I just made you like a gazillion billion. So that's good. I'm trying to think of like an LLM joke, because I was thinking, take a shot every time somebody says LLM, and then I want to tie in like a punchline with zero shot or few shot, which is prompt engineering. So whoever has a good punchline there, go for it. We still have 76 people on the call. People, get a life, walk your dogs, get a cup of tea, get a workout in. That's important, they tell me. Oh, and send me those chatbots, because then we can just do a YouTube channel talking about these chatbots and figuring out the design patterns and if they're doing a good job or not. Just don't want to step on anyone's toes. We used to review these voice applications. It was always like voice games on smart speakers, but they were so bad that we had to stop. They would break after one question. And then one of the larger producers of smart speakers that also has a store that is named after a region with a river. They're like, yeah, don't do that. So they were like, okay. Dad joke is needed. Yes, there is a dad joke needed here. Is the recording already stopped? Should be stopped. Otherwise, they really need to cut this out.